Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We are going to do a special selection today, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's request comes at us from MRB Placebo, Taste in Men. Placebo are masters of dark and melancholic yet catchy music. Hard to pick one single song from their discography, but I like this one. All right, let's dive into this and see what Placebo is bringing to the table today. Wow. I kind of thought the opening of it, we kind of had like a trip hop idea going on. Moody, slow moving, static. I kind of figured that's what we were gonna have for the whole song, and yeah, that's not how it goes. There's actually a little bit of variation in here that it took it to some interesting places without ever letting go of that core foundation. How do I even talk about this? Um, let's start with the bass. Because that's what makes the most sense to me. The bass and the vocals are the only thing that make any sense to me. Everything else is very noisy, and we'll get to that because there's some interesting things in the noise. So the bass actually has three different parts as the song evolves. It starts off with a bit of a higher pitched element that is primarily melodic based. It's a short riff. Was that even the bass? I don't think. I mean, if it wasn't, then the bass passed this idea on because it does. So there is this two beat idea. It is a riff that we hear twice per bar. It is very frequent. And it's like four notes. Ba da 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 da, something about that. But it's like much lower than I can hit. And it's kind of fuzzy, got a bit of distortion on it. It is the main pulse of this song. And I don't think it's a bass that kicks it off. I think it's a synth. Um, it's present throughout the entire song. No matter what we add, layer wise, how we change things up, it is there, present throughout. And it lines up with the rhythmic cadence of our drums. So, yeah, the bass doesn't actually start yet. In our second verse, maybe, I don't know if there's choruses in here. That's the weird thing. Um, it feels fairly linear to me. And the second time, though, that we begin the first repetition of the song, I guess, like I said, it just kind of feels like A, each of them with small variation. We have an extremely large bass sound, though. And it just kind of fills in this low end. It is a huge, wide tone. And it primarily pushes the chord progression forward in a sense. It's a bunch of root notes, honestly. It's a pretty simple idea, but it's effective given how cyclical everything else has been so far. The vocals have given us an idea of a chordal progression, but haven't actually leaned into one yet. And our electronic elements have just been static. Same with our drums, which aren't pitched. So, yeah, it gives us a chordal idea, but it also fills out so much of the song. And what's interesting is up until this point, you don't realize just how small the sound is yet. Because it's not a small sound. Our two electronic elements, our drums, our vocals, are not small. But the bass comes in and just puts everything into perspective. It is such a big sound. And what's cool is when we hit our second repetition, our third part of the track, our bass changes up its riff. It isn't a massive shift. It doesn't really change much for the song, but the fact that it changes at all, I think, is a nice little nod to an ever changing element. The song never goes back to the simplicity that it was at the beginning. And for a song that is so consumed with the topic of change, I don't know exactly how much into change, but the phrase change your taste in men comes up way too infrequently for me to have missed it. um, it's interesting that the song is simultaneously static and evolving. It is never the same, but never different. And somehow they make that conundrum work. And it's through these little ideas here. The bass changes. We add more layers to the track, but we never lose that foundation, that home. It feels consistently similar. Not to mention the vocals don't, I mean, the lyrics don't really change much either, I don't think. When we get to the lyrics, I'll give them a gloss over and we'll see. But from what I picked up here, it's very, very similar ideas, if not completely just copy pasting each verse into the next. So there's that static element there as well. Um, but yeah, things never changing and things slightly changing are massive themes for this song, and the divide and schism that they create, and the opportunities musically that the small changes can afford a song to not feel static when it is. I really like that. And that's pretty much the whole song musically. The bass has its two ideas. The two electronic sections are hypercyclical, repeating multiple times within a bar. Our drums are rather static on one single idea, and the vocals have a riff, a melody that they repeat ad nauseum. One interesting thing I want to point out that I just couldn't not hear so often is the vocalists need almost to inject extra H sounds into held out notes. We have taste in mehen, something about Valentines. Um, Once I noticed it, I couldn't unnotice it. And I'm not saying this to throw shade or anything. It's a very unique uh, vocal delivery, not in isolation. People do this all the time, but to excessively use it. I wonder if it's either the vocalist style, and he does this all the time in all of his singing, or if this was something specific for this, because it does alter and change the syllable. And this song is, again, about change. So just might be grasping at straws here. I'm seeing some parallels. I don't know if they're connected. Parallel lines don't connect, so maybe they're not. Anyways, it's just something I picked up, and so once I heard it, I couldn't stop hearing it. It is everywhere in the song, and it adds a specific character. I think it's going to be a love it or hate it kind of thing, kind of like Metallica's "Yeah," how it's just everywhere. The end of a line, put that sound at the end of it. Um, and it's just, maybe that's just how this band operates. And that's it. So give me a second. We'll look at some lyrics and we'll wrap this video up. So there is a lot of repetition in here. Every single verse begins with the same four lines, ends with the same seventh, and has similar fifth and sixth. Come back to me a while, change your style again. Come back to me a while, change your taste in men. The first and third say, it's been this way since Christmas Day, dazzled and doused in gin. The second says, I'm killing time on Valentine's, waiting for the day to end. And all three of them end with the repetition of the idea, change your taste in men. And after those three verses, our final outro is just change your taste in men, change your taste in men, repeated over and over and over. The idea of cycles cannot be overstated in this. The thing about a cycle is that in the minute, in the minutia, they are changing. A wheel rotates every, X amount of time. The wheel is in a new position, but the wheel doesn't go anywhere. There is change, but there's also a static nature. That's what this song appears to me to be about. The heavily looped element, the fact that there's no chorus, that it's just a series of verses, the minute changes in the bass versus the heavy repetition in the electronic element. It's about this cycle. You come back to me, and then you change your style. Maybe someone else catches your fancy, but then you come back to me, and then you change your taste and mend. I'm not someone you want. You find someone else, right? This idea of you leave me, you come back. You leave me, you come back. He says it's been this way since Christmas Day. And assuming that we are looking at this in the moment, our second verse says, I'm killing time on Valentine's. So it was Christmas Day. Now it's Valentine's. Our third verse goes back to it's been this way since Christmas Day. We can see that possibly over the course of a whole year, this has been the continual cycle. And given that we start at it's been this way since Christmas Day, we moved away from that and came back to it's been this way since Christmas Day. We could be looking at a full year leap across these ideas, that this cycle not only goes back in you leave me, you come back, you leave me, come back, but also on the larger whole. This is a weekly cycle, a monthly cycle, but it's also a yearly cycle. The same thing has repeated for years and years. We can use Christmas Day as a point, a landmark of saying this has been this way since last Christmas and last Christmas and last Christmas. And the necessity to showcase Valentine's Day, to shove that in there and to show a distance away and a return to, rather than it just being a repetition of an idea, which could be a fixation on one. This implies the loop. We got away, we came back. It's everywhere in here. It is loops upon loops upon loops in the lyrics. Musically, we have loops upon loops. We have the half bar loop in one of our electronic tones. We get 2 repetitions of that every bar. But everything is also a riff or a lick or an ostinato. There is no linear melody in here. Loops go from half bar to full bar to 4 bar to 8 bar phrases, but they all loop in back on themselves. Everything is recursive. It's just spirals all the way down. And that's rather impressive to pull everything together like that while keeping that melancholic want. It's, at least to me, since this person keeps taking this person back, our narrator keeps taking this person back, that they want to be in this relationship, possibly, and they're not happy when they're apart. And that sadness, that lacking of happiness possibly comes through in the musical themes as well, which are a bit dark and moody. I completely forgot about the noise solo section, and I don't even know how I would put that in here other than some sort of anger, but I don't think that lines up with the moodiness elsewhere found and what I just kind of alluded to, where I think the narrator or main character's mental state is, or emotional state is at. Not my cup of tea, but I wouldn't mind listening to more. It might not be something I actively seek out on my own, but I am kind of intrigued with what else they do. This was way too cyclical for me, but it lines up thematically and I can appreciate that. I'm curious what they would do when the theme isn't about cycles and seeing where they might be able to take something a bit less loopy. I'm going to stick with that word. Those are my thoughts on Placebo's taste in men. It's where you all come in. What do you think of this one? Did you enjoy it? Anything to stand out to you? Any comments you'd like to add? You can put them down in the comment box. Above the comment section is a description box, and then there's a link to Linktree. It takes you to this menu right here as links for everything related to the channel. You can find links to my music, a link to the Discord community, links to multiple ways to support the channel, and so much more. Go ahead and check it out. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I was just a hair too fast on that. I greatly appreciate all three. All right, we got one more special selection today. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC. We're going to wrap up this week's series of special selections with two final ones before heading into next week's return to form, getting back to themes for our first video of every day. All right, until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.